This is a Labyrinth segment. Thor, God of War. Or is it Thor, God of Peace? Wait a minute now. Which is it? Is Thor a god of war, or is he a god of peace? Well, this is one of those topics that is very much my opinion versus the world. Some would even say it's my opinion versus the evidence, but I believe that when we're through today, that the evidence will speak for itself. That Thor is, to a degree, both a god of peace and a god of war, but that his primary role has always been one bringing forth peace. Perhaps not always one of being peaceful, but often it is those that bring forth peace that have to be the least peaceful. Now, before we go any further, Thor is primarily a god of weather. And we have to really take that into consideration. As a weather god, Thor's purpose to the Norse people has always been one of the bringer of the storm. That's Thor, smacking his hammer down on a frost giant when you see lightning. That was what they believed. That was the interpretation they took from that natural event. Thor, by his very nature, is the Lord of the Storm, though Odin also has control of the weather. So, when we look at Thor as a god of the storm, he also then becomes the god of the harvest. And the nature of the god of the harvest is the fact that without good storms, one cannot have good harvest. Especially in the Norse lands. The soil is set up as such that without a good rainfall, it just does not yield crop. And when crop is not yielded, people die. In that respect, then, Thor could be said to be a god of life, even. For without the harvest, there was no life. Now, we live in a society that's removed from its agriculture. Overly removed from its agriculture, which is probably why we're in the financial turmoils we are in as of this recording. But in being removed from agriculture, we forget that without food there is no life. Without harvest there is no food. So, to that degree then, a god like Thor was far, far more important to the day-to-day lives of the Norse than just as some warrior god rampaging around, killing people. He was the god of the common man, and beyond even being the god of the common man, it's the god who helped bring life to the common man. Thor was also known as the champion of mankind, standing against the frost, the giants of the frost. And when we look at the frost, we don't think anything of it today. We're sitting here in our heated homes, driving in our heated cars, to go work in our heated buildings, our little heated lives. Yes, we don't think of the frost, and yet the frost is ever present. We have went to such a degree to keep the cold out that we heat our homes to 87 degrees in the middle of winter. Because we can. Because we don't like the cold. We don't like being frostbitten. Well, no one likes being frostbitten. We don't even like being chilly. We generate enough heat in the United States of America that if you were to... We generate more heat than the sun. We generate so much heat. Why? Because we don't like being fucking cold. We really don't. We're a society that's very wimpy in that respect, but I can't blame us. Because I don't like cold either. Apparently Thor doesn't like cold either, because he goes over to the makers of the cold, the frost giants, and beats the living daylights out of them at any chance he gets. But Thor doesn't like giants in general. What's a giant? Giant is someone bigger than you. Says, I'm bigger than you. I'm stronger than you. And therefore, I'm going to tell you what to do. Because by being bigger and stronger, I can kick your ass. Thor understands what it means to be big and strong, because Thor is big and strong, but he don't like that kind of attitude. So, he brings his mighty Mjolnir and beats the hell out of the giants, protecting the common man from the giants' wrath. In many stories, Thor is seen showing up at various points to really kind of protect people, or symbolically protect people, depending on how you view the symbols of the stories involved. But Thor is a war god, and there's a reason he is a war god, and it's because he is a weather god. Well, Thor, with his weather powers and his ability to control the storms, brings them in to beat the giants back yearly. You know, I can see that he's very aggressive, but what does weather have to do with war? Well, if you're asking that, you have not read Sun Tzu. And you should. Because you need to understand the art of war. Weather plays a very important part. Now, does it play the part that it used to? When I started looking at this topic, I wanted to say, no, with our modern technology and all that we have learned to do and maintain, we have put the gods aside to the point that weather doesn't even influence our ability to wage war upon another. We don't need the help of the god of war. Yeah, fuck that. The truth, the really scary truth, is that weather is still far more dangerous than anything else we go up against in modern war. In the day-to-day, the world we live in, weather is going to kill more people in the next 3 days than war will. And weather is going to make war more difficult than any weapon we have. Oh yeah, the atom bomb. We can blow ourselves off the face of the planet, but we can't keep from blowing ourselves off the face of the planet with it. It's an all or nothing. It's got no in between. It doesn't kill a specific group of people. It's not a weapon of war. It's a weapon of mass destruction. It doesn't wage war, which is to kill the people you want to kill and not the ones you don't. It just fucking kills everybody. So take the A-bomb out of war, okay? And if you're there going, we're Americans and we got atomic bombs and that makes us badasses, well, take those atomic bombs and shove them square up your end. In other news, weather still plays a bigger part in all of this. When we talk about waging war, weather plays a bigger part than anything. You know, we're talking about taking over a town and setting up a flag in it. That's what war is. When you can say, I own this now. When you can do that, then you have succeeded in making war. At least to a degree. And weather plays a bigger part in that than anything, because when it's raining, and you're there, troops, get up, you're ready to move out. And it's pouring down so thick that if you're worried about water rations, you're stupid. But that if you happen to need a drink, all you gotta do is point your mouth to the sky and watch it fill up. When it's pouring down rain so thick that the concept of mud has become foreign and the only concept that remains is water, and you're sloshing through this mess, the one thing you think is, man, I've got the god of war on my bad side today. I obviously don't have the weather on my good side. Well, it's always been this way. Troops move and vehicles move through weather. And good weather makes war very easy. You come out, and on the, you look out, you see the rain has come to a stop at your front door, your troops are nice and dry, but you see the enemy troops are sloshing through water and mud. They can't move, they can't fight. You gotta believe your day just got easier. Don't gotta do as much today, we just gotta point our guns out, wait for them to dig themselves out of the mud, and then fire. It makes it an easy day. When you're there and the enemy is in high and dry territory, the weather is turned against you, the winds are howling, you're unable to use the environment, you've given up tunneling, you are now preparing to request naval assistance for them to send submarines, because God knows nothing's going to float in this. Well then war sucks. Well, war always sucks, but For you, it sucks worse. In the desert, flash floods can happen in an instant. Winds can pick up and die at a moment's notice. And we've had a lot of fighting in the desert recently. And our men will tell you, it's rough out there. When the weather's on your side, it's beautiful. When the weather's against you, it's hell. You tell me who's going to be the deciding god in a battle, in a war. Even today, your planes can only fly in certain conditions. Our jets don't operate in some conditions, or at least they don't operate well. Our ships, far less efficient when you got a frickin' typhoon heading at them. And with all the weaponry we have, several hundred tornadoes rampaging the landscape in a day do much, much more than any bomb we've invented. Weather is the ultimate weapon. And therefore, he who has the weather on his side is the ultimate fighter, the ultimate god of war. And therefore, Thor holds that title in the Norse pantheon. Because he decides war. In a very real sense, to the people. But Thor is also a god of anger. He's not just a god of war. He gets pissed frequently in the Norse sagas. And I talk about Thor, I don't mean Marvel Comics' rip-off. It's a decent character. What I'm talking about is the Old Norse Thor. You know, the great protector of the people. Bringer of food and harvest and thereby life. And that son of a bitch who decided to fill the ditch you're hiding in up to the top with water. Yes, the god of war. And anger. Because what's angrier than a lightning storm or a tornado? What has more raw, uncontrolled fury? If we have to give emotion to natural phenomenon, what has more wrath than a storm that is hell-bent on destruction? That's Thor. And in the Norse sagas, he's portrayed like that. He is kind, though. He is kind to the men and women around him. If you've done him no harm, even if you've done him harm, he's not likely to just often kill you for no apparent reason. There's a story in which one of his goats is injured. I guess I should give the story a little bit more complete, because if I tell it like that, you're all going to think I've ran off into a tangent. So what I'll say is there's a story at which the base principle is that Thor's goats can be revived so long as he doesn't break any of their bones. He can use his hammer Mjolnir, bring them back to life. He can restore the flesh to the bone, much as the harvest does to the human body, but that's beside the point. Or maybe that is the point. So long as the bones are not broken, that is beyond Mjolnir's power to restore. Well, he went to a small couple's home, and they had no food. They could provide no food, and they were down and out. And they were like, how could we have a god in our home? We don't even have anything to feed him. He says, don't worry about that. I've got it taken care of. He kills his goat, slits its throat, cooks it, and they eat. And he says, don't anyone break a bone of this goat. This goat is my friend. He gave his life so we could eat. He will come back, though, because I'm that damn good. The idea here also has to do with renewable resources and the understanding of farming, and that, you can do too much to the land or to the animals, and eventually you don't have land or animals to do with. So, of course, someone breaks a bone. It's going to happen. And Thor restores his goats as he's about to ride out. One of them is lame. Its leg doesn't work. So, one of these people broke the bone to get to the marrow. We don't eat bone marrow in our society because we're fat and we're lazy and we are what we are. Not all of us. If you're listening to this, you may even be overweight, but you're not fat from the sense that I call fat. You're not overweight because you're not trying. You're overweight because genetics and the society you're living in has given you a bad turn because the food available to you at the prices you can afford is probably not the stuff you want to be eating anyway. But the point is, when you're living on nothing, you ain't got the nutrition to even survive, you develop a taste for the bone marrow in an animal. It's really, the vitamins and minerals are what you need, and you're going to suck that out of the bone. So one of them does that, and then, of course, the goat's lame. He can't walk. Thor can't heal that. You know, maybe one of the other gods can, but he ain't going to go to them for help because Thor's proud. But first, Thor's pissed. And, you know, Thor is a god of anger. He starts to stammer. He starts to shake. And, you know, he's there getting into an uproar, and people look over. A couple of girls, oh, please, Thor, don't kill us. They bow down, their heads on the ground. Please don't kill us. We forgot and broke his leg to get to the marrow. And Thor's like, what? Oh, wow, you guys really are scared. I wasn't going to kill you. I was just pissed off that my goat's hurt. And they got his goat. So, what's he do? He says, no. I gotta help. You know, getting from point A to point B. The goats normally carry stuff for me when I'm in towns. Tell you what, it's an honor to be apprenticed by Thor. I will apprentice your child in exchange for the injury you did to my godly goat. Well, they were thrilled. Not only did they get to live, but their child just moved up in life. Their child just went from what would be a humble farmer at the whims of anyone to be done to whatever they please to Thor's servant. No one hurts Thor's servant. Thor's servant would be a god even themselves to a degree. Get elevated from farmer to god. Thor is a god of anger. He was angry, but he's a god of compassion and kindness. Other gods of war in other cultures would have struck that family down. Thor elevated that family. So why did people go to Thor for victory? And what is peace in relation to war? Why Thor is this great protector and this god of anger? How can I say he's a god of peace? How can I say that he's a god of war and a god of peace? Well, first we've got to look at war and how it relates to peace. And war is one of those things that when you live in a warlike world, is the means to peace. When every day is fighting and struggle, only by winning the war is there peace. When you've got the hordes coming at you, screaming, waving their swords, you know, you realize that the only way you're going to have them turn back is through peaceful negotiation and proper use of English. Yeah, right. The only way you're going to get them to turn back is to hit them so hard that their great-great-great-great-great-grandkids know it. You're going to have to hit them so hard that for the next 30 generations, there's going to be a hammer imprint in their head. You're going to have to win. And that means you're going to have to kill. Which means you're going to have victory when it's all said and done. There's going to have to be no doubt. You need to make war. Because they're making war on you, and if you don't, then it's just not much of a party. You need to make war to have peace in a situation like that. And for a people that have no other choice to live, peace is brought forth from war. Why go to Thor for victory as a means to peace? Well, isn't there another god that will bring peace? Not for the Norse, and not realistically. Most peace is brought forth by some victory on a battlefield. In today's day and age, that victory is economic. That victory is production and power and wealth. But that battlefield is no different, no less cutthroat, no less violent, really, when you look at it. I mean, look at what we do to each other as human beings to make a buck. It's violent. It's aggressive. And that means you need someone who can help you win a war. And as we said, what better way to win a war? What better way to destroy an enemy than through the weather? And who would you go to for peace if not the person that will win the war for you? Mjolnir would be really the last thing for us to talk about. And I don't mean that as to say that it's the last thing you'd want to talk about. I mean that it's really the next thing to discuss. It's the thing of importance. The prime key point in all of this. Thor is a god of war. His hammer is the weapon. The indisputable weapon, representing the storm, representing lightning, a power that mere mortals, we really don't even have full control of lightning to this day. But more than that, it is also the same tool that's used to build. In the medieval world, things were either made through hammering them, such as metals hammered into shapes, or made by hammering nails into them, such as wood. Glue was fairly unused, so it really came down to, building things with a hammer and nails. And Mjolnir holds a unique place. Mjolnir is Thor's hammer. It holds a unique place in the Norse belief in that it is the ultimate destructive weapon, and yet after Ragnarok, it is the tool that we use to rebuild the world. They understood the concept of the hammer being the prime tool, and therefore they gave it to the god that they felt would most use it. Thor as an idea, as a god, as an entity, whatever you choose to view him as, the ultimate aspect of that idea is the power that stands against the cold. The weapon that is also the tool. The force that could be destructive or creative applied towards the task that is needed and at hand. So, I hope that when all this is said and done, when you look at the idea, the persona of Thor, you see a god of war, of anger, of power, but moreover, of peace. A god who does what he does because only after the war will there be peace in any struggle, in any conflict. When one puts down their sword and says, I have lost and this day is not mine, there is peace. And to have that not be you, then you must achieve peace by being the victor. And that's what Thor stands for, is peace that comes after war. The peace that comes with a gentle rainfall. And the peace that comes with a good harvest. And that's it for the look into Thor. God of war or God of peace.